911 response.
I'm not sure if I should have called 911, but my boss isn't answering, and I'm not sure what to do.
What's the problem, sir?
I work at Sheldon's on 19th, and there's a man standing in one of the aisles about 30 feet away from me. He's wearing a mask. Oh, God. And he's covered in blood. And he's just looking at me.
Has the man threatened or hurt you, sir?
No, but he keeps...
Have you tried speaking to him or asking him to leave, sir?
No, I can't do that.
Why not, sir?
Because every time I move, he moves closer to me. I work at a government building downtown. My shift begins at 11 p.m. Throughout the night, I'm the only one here. I sit in a very small room and watch the surveillance cameras that surround the exterior of the building. I've never had to call the director for any reason or incident until this one night. I was doing what I always do, and that's relax. I watch Netflix on my phone. I'd be lying if I said I didn't fall asleep sometimes. Hell, I'd be lying if I said I didn't fall asleep most of the time. This one particular night, I fell asleep 3:15 in the morning. I had a dream that made me wake up abruptly, like those ones where you fall off of something. I couldn't remember the dream as soon as I woke up, and I'm pretty sure my body was just trying to tell me that I needed to wake up for some reason. I reached for my Coke on the desk next to the monitor and froze. On camera B5, which was the hallway leading east from the lobby, was a woman. She was walking slowly and was out of sight in a few seconds. I was confused at first because nobody else should be in the building with me. But then my heart started beating faster when I came to the realization that the hallway leads to me. I looked at the live feed of the next camera that she would pass through, the one showing the room outside my office. I thought to myself how ridiculous this was, that I'm specifically here for this purpose, and I'm too terrified to move. Maybe it's because the woman didn't look usual. Her long hair covered her face. I waited for her to appear in the room, but she didn't. I looked at the feed of the hallway again. Nothing. I looked at every live feed on the monitor and didn't see her anywhere. I picked up my company phone and called my boss. "Hey Ben, sorry to wake you. I saw a woman on the monitor in the east hallway." He was confused, of course, and told me to do what I hoped he wouldn't. He told me to find her. I hung up the phone and assured myself that I'm the man, and I am here to kick people out that don't belong, and this is my building. I grabbed my flashlight, which was all I had, and opened the door. The woman was not in the room connected to the office, and after making sure, I opened the door to the east hallway. As soon as the door opened, I saw the woman walking fast towards me at the opposite end of the hall. The way she was walking towards me, I opened my mouth to say something, but something made me stop. The way she was walking, it was threatening. I did not want her to reach me. I closed the door. Shit. No lock. I ran back to my office and closed the door, and thankfully, there was a lock on this one. I looked at the monitor and almost fainted. The woman was standing at the door, right outside the door to my office. How did she get here so fast? She was terrifying. Her hair was so long, and she stood at the door facing it like a statue. As I fumbled around the desk grabbing the company phone, I saw her turn around and walk away. My boss told me to find her, and I said I would. I didn't. I didn't leave that office until morning, and I didn't see the woman again. Hello everyone. I need to share this experience I had at work the other night. I worked the late night shift at the CVS pharmacy by my house. The shift starts at 9 p.m. and it ends at 2:30 in the morning. Honestly, it's the easiest job I've ever had, and I really enjoyed it for the past year. But last Sunday I was pulling up the purchasing program on the computer at the front counter to add some products that we had run out of. While I was on the computer, I didn't notice the man walk right up to me. When I did look up, I almost fainted because of how close he was, and on top of that, the guy didn't say anything after I did notice him. He gave me this psychotic little grin, and I asked him if he needed help finding something. He shook his head no, and then asked me if anyone else was working right then. This was an immediate red flag, and I lied and said yes, there's a manager and 3 others somewhere around. Then his smile grew, and he said, "Liar," almost to where I couldn't even hear it. Then the awkward silence. He stood there like a psycho, and I eventually had to just look away and tell him I needed to get back to work. I literally couldn't look at him anymore. I was shaking. He was so creepy. When I looked back up again, he was gone. I looked around the store from where I was standing but didn't see him down any of the aisles. I walked out from behind the counter and looked to see if he was crouched down in front of it. No, he was gone. I felt relieved, but also terrified because I knew that he had to have walked out of the store very fast in that amount of time to just vanish like that. I was probably looking away for 10 seconds or less. I was a bit shaken up for an hour or so, but I forgot about it after a while. At 1:45, I started to clean up and get ready to close the store. I finalized the inventory, counted the money, and wiped down the windows and counters. When everything was done, I grabbed my drink, my keys, and my phone and walked over to the door to shut off the lights and lock up. I flipped off the lights and leaned down to unlock the sliding lock on the bottom of the door. When I stood back up, and while turning to go out the door, my eyes scanned over what I thought was a head peering over at me from one of the aisles. I stopped and froze in place, and then slowly looked back over to where I saw it. There was nothing. I wasn't sure that I saw what I thought I did, but I was scared. Then, while I was thinking of my next move, my train of thought was shattered by the man as he crawled out of the aisle on his hands and knees. He knew I could see him, because he started hysterically laughing. I went out the door and violently dialed 911 in the parking lot. I didn't see the man come out, and I circled the block until the police arrived. The man wasn't in the store when they went inside, but they did find his clothes in the aisle he crawled out of. I used to work the overnight shift, often with one other person in my work center. Well, we worked in the basement of a huge complex and would often go outside to smoke, which was a 5-minute journey upstairs and 5 minutes back. One night, we decided to take the elevator for a change. Well, approaching the elevator, we see a gentleman in a red polo waiting at the elevator door. When we were about 10 yards away, the door opened and he walked inside. We entered an empty elevator a few steps behind him. Working at Jack in the Box from 2 to 7 in the morning can definitely have its perks. I can go stand in the back where the sinks are and eat food. Sure, I've gained a little weight, but I don't do it as often as I could. The downside is, it can get kinda scary. I'm in there by myself. On a Friday night, about 6 months ago, I experienced some horror movie shit. This little girl, I'd say about 10 years old, walked up to the drive-thru window. I wasn't scared when I first saw her. She is just a little girl after all. I opened the window and asked if she was all right. Even though she looked fine, she was wearing tattered clothes that looked very dirty, and there was dirt on her face and in her hair. She responded to my question with a question. She asked, "Are you all right?" I was a bit taken back because of how fast she responded with the same question, and I laughed a little and said, "Yeah, what are you doing?" She then asked me, "What are you doing?" I immediately felt very on edge right at that moment. I felt like I was being messed with, and possibly some adults were going to pop out or something and try to rob the place. I looked all around and behind her, but I could only see dark, empty parking lot. I didn't feel like humoring this little girl anymore, so I just closed the window and turned around. I was definitely still creeped out, but I pretended to just go back to work and started wiping down the sides of the fryers. I actually did start to forget about it after I'd say 5 minutes, when suddenly I heard tapping on the glass. I turned to look, and she had her face almost pressed against the window. I stood there in utter shock for a second. She stood there, blank-faced, staring at me. I decided to walk over and open the window again. When I did, I asked her, "What are you doing here?" She didn't respond, but instead took a fork out of her pocket. I closed the window again, and she tapped it on the glass. 3 of the points on the fork were broken off, leaving just one sharp and incredibly creepy point. I yelled at her that I'm calling the cops, so she needs to get the hell out of here. And then she smiled and ran away. I wish I could say the story has a scarier ending, but I'm telling you, it was scary as hell. So random, and I didn't see her again that night or any other night. My dad used to work nights for the city, spraying weeds and shit. He was spraying pesticides at a graveyard one night, and he said for some reason he just felt terrified suddenly and looked behind him, and like 50 feet away there was this guy sitting on a headstone, just giving my dad the 1,000-yard stare. Apparently my dad tried to ask him what he was doing out there, told him to leave because of all the chemicals in the air. But the guy just sat there, stone still, staring my dad in the eye. He took the rest of the night off and came home visibly shaken up, and he wasn't the type to let that shit show normally. Not saying it was a ghost or anything, just could have been some weird old man visiting his dead wife or something. But the way he described it was just fucking scary. Hi. Sorry to frighten you. Let's play a game. If you move, I move. And if I reach you, I stab you. Oh, you're wondering where your coworker is. I cut her throat in the back. Hey, if you move, I move too. Oh, I see. You want that phone. To call for help, I presume. Well, I'm going to kill you before they can help you. Don't cry. Here, I'll call for help for you. But when I hang up the phone, I'm going to kill you.
"911 response.